Hello, and welcome to the Hamumu Halloween Home Horror Hoedown. I am your host, Mike Hommel.
And I'm your other host, Solely Hommel.
And we're going to take you through 31 scary movies through the month of October, like we do every year. But for the first time this year, we're going to do it entirely in audio format. We like to mix it up every year. One thing you need to be aware of is that we will be employing a truly ghoulish number of spoilers throughout all of these reviews. So if you haven't seen the movie we're reviewing, maybe don't listen to our podcast until you do. We highly recommend you check them out and watch along with us. It's going to be fun for everybody. I mean, how could it not be? So if you're ready and you've watched the movie, please step inside our lair and let's begin.
The Lords of Salem is a 2013 movie that we watched on Vudu.
Vudu normally costs a lot of money. This was free as long as you're willing to sit through some ads. So anybody is free to watch this on Vudu.
Yeah, although you will have to watch commercials, which is terrible.
Yeah.
Lords of Salem is rated R and has a 101-minute running time. IMDb gave it a 5.1. Metacritic gave it a 57, and Rotten Tomato critics gave it a 45, while the audience gave it a 29.
There's something about those Rotten Tomato audience. They are just picky.
They really are. I wonder if there's just a certain type of person that does reviews on Rotten Tomato, or...
Not the same type as IMDb, apparently.
Clearly not. Interesting. Or maybe Rotten Tomatoes people just don't like horror movies.
That could be.
So, tell us why you picked this movie.
Okay, I popped open Hulu, flipped through the movies in our list, and I came across one called Circus Kane, which we may do later, who knows. It features a scary clown on the cover, and it's a story of people getting trapped into a deadly game by a carnival master, Ringmaster Gene, I'll call him.
Yes.
And I thought, maybe, and so I looked it up, and I saw people in the discussion of it saying Rob Zombie's 31 is a much better movie, and I was like, wait, Rob Zombie did other movies. That's an interesting thought. So I looked at 31, and it's not available on any of their services.
Okay.
I think we could have paid money to see it, but come on. Money? Really?
Right. We would rather watch commercials.
Oh. Yeah, maybe I went the wrong way there. Anyway, in the process, I saw that, of course, he also made Lords of Salem, which a lot of people said was... I think nobody said it was as good as House of a Thousand Corpses or Devil's Rejects, but also in the process, they all said Devil's Rejects is much better than House of a Thousand Corpses. So,
they're so wrong about that
yeah,
I can't even understand it.
I don't know what's going on there, but they all said this was pretty good, like those movies. And so I said, I'm going to surprise Solely with a Rob Zombie movie. And that's how this happened.
I see. And you did not tell me it was a Rob Zombie movie right off the bat. I did see it at one point because when you pause on Vudu, it posts information about the movie, and it included that.
I know. It ruined my game. Because actually, as soon as the movie ended, the first thing that popped up was written and directed by Rob Zombie, and I was going to be like, yeah.
And you wanted me to be like screaming and going, oh my gosh.
Yeah. I don't know if that would have happened, though.
I will say that once I saw his name... everything it made sense. not the movie so much, but like the feel of it. Like as soon as I saw his name, I was like, oh, clearly this is a Rob Zombie movie. He has such a distinctive style.
Yeah, but this one is quite a bit different than those other two, I would have to say. Those are very, wild and crazy, and this was much more slow and quiet up until it wasn't quiet towards the end.
Yes, it was, because it's a different kind of story.
Yeah.
It's not a slasher film like House of a Thousand Corpses or Devil's Rejects. It's much more the story of one woman's kind of descent into madness as she's being tormented by witches.
Hey, Solely, what's the summary of this movie?
As I said, it is a slower story, but there is still that same feel. Like, Rob Zombie has an aesthetic to his movies that is very distinctive. And there are, I think there are just some people, and maybe I think this because I am not one of those people, but there are some people who just understand how to put colors and textures and things together in a way that works. And I don't know how to do that.
Me neither.
I know sort of what colors go together, but I get very matchy-matchy. And, like, I can look at an outfit that somebody has put together and be like, that's an amazing outfit. And recognize that if I had all those same pieces in my closet, I would never put them all on at the same time. Or, if someone gave me a, pile of furniture and was like, go ahead and put a room together, I would not know what to do with it. And he has that skill. Like, his movies, as horrific as they are, and they truly are some of the most horrific, pushing the envelope movies that we watch.
Yeah.
They are beautiful in their own way.
Just to back it up a bit, just a tip for our listeners. What I do, fashion-wise, is I have all my t-shirts all in a row in the closet. I grab the first one off the rack. I wear it. Later, when I do laundry, I put them at the end of the rack. So I just cycle through all my shirts, and I don't care which one I'm wearing.
No, you do not.
Perfect.
There's a word for that. I don't know.
Awesome?
Perfect is the word I would choose, but...
It's either perfect or awesome. I guess it's up to the viewer.
You and your fashion sense.
Yes.
So, first shot, first line.
Uh-huh.
The first shot is the side of a woman's face. She has dreadlocks. She's in a car. There's kind of a yellow filter.
Yeah.
So it's, you actually said it looked very Matrix-y, and it did.
Yes. Well, she looked like she was one of the Ghost brothers from the second Matrix movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It turns out that woman is Sherry Moon Zombie, Rob Zombie's wife, who he very much likes to put in key roles in his movies.
Yeah, he does.
And the first line comes a little bit later. It is...
As I write these very words, the witch, Margaret Morgan, gathers with her coven of 6 deep within the woods surrounding our beloved Salem.
And I believe that is somebody reading the lines from the journal of the witch hunter whose name was John Hawthorne.
Yeah, and for that part we got flashback scenes from way back in the 1600s. Very exciting.
Yes.
Well, my first note on this movie, right at the beginning, is that I don't ever need any movie that I watch, without exception, to show me someone going to the bathroom. I can skip that.
I fully 100% agree with you on that.
It added nothing. We saw her go in there and wash her face and, she's having trouble waking up. And that was enough. Didn't have to then go sit down and use the restroom.
No. I mean, I get it does set a tone, I guess.
I guess.
Because she did sort of seem like the kind of character who wouldn't necessarily care if someone was in the bathroom. If she needed to pee, she would sit down and pee.
So, like a camera.
Sure. But I also had that note. I don't need that. One of the things that I have noticed with the characters that Sherry Moon Zombie plays is they are always naked at some point.
Yeah, it was the first point. Well,
yes.
Almost.
And my comment there is if somebody can sleep butt naked, they are paying too much to heat their house.
Or they could be in Hawaii. She wasn't.
She was in Massachusetts.
Yeah, that's not.
And it was clearly
hot place.
fall because Lacey was sweeping leaves off of the front stoop at some point.
That's right. Good observation.
So she's paying too much to heat that apartment.
Hey, in other news of things that I don't ever have to see, her character, Heidi, was one of 3 parts to a terrible morning show DJ group.
Oh.
It was the whole bit where they'd look at a news story and their comments on it would be terrible jokes with weird sound effects in the background and sound effects of people going, wow, right, I don't like that, whatever.
Right, and the jokes are always racist or sexist or terrible in some way.
So, yeah, again, something I never need to experience. Morning shows.
That is one of the things that I am most grateful for Pandora for.
Yeah.
Is that I don't ever have to accidentally be flipping through radio stations and come across talk radio of any kind.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. However, those 3, so Heidi and her fellow DJs, who I believe were both named Herman.
Yeah, according to the ad, they were.
One of them, and they were the 3 H's, that was the show. One of whom went by the name Herman, and one of them went by the nickname Whitey. Mm-hmm. These 3 were clearly good friends, and the persona that they displayed while they were on air was very different
Yeah.
from their real life persona.
I liked that.
And yeah, it was interesting. But I also I noted how truly they were friends. They liked one another off air.
Yeah.
And they were looking after, the two guys were definitely looking after Heidi and were very concerned about her well-being.
Yeah, because she was a recovering drug addict and doing the whole NA thing and whatnot. And so, yeah, they were making sure that everything was cool.
So the premise of the movie then is it starts off with this box, this record in a box that is sent to Heidi at the radio station.
And one of my favorite lines, one of the few that I can share with our audience, was,
In Ukraine, music always delivered in wooden box.
Yes.
That was fun because it was funny, and that was an example of how they were hanging out together, listening to music, and there was this whole interaction between them, which was very unlike any movie. It was more like real life. Like, she did this super weird random thing where he was like, I don't know what he asked her, but like, do you like this music or something? And her only response was like, she winked with one eye and cocked that shoulder, and then winked with the other eye and cocked that shoulder. And it was stupid and made no sense. And he was confused by it. And he was like, what are you doing? And that was like real people. They do stupid, goofy things that no one understands. And it's just people being weird. And there were a couple other things in that same scene where they did that. And I really liked that.
Yeah, they were comfortable together. They could be themselves with each other, which was interesting because you don't see that very often in movies. Mm-hmm. And I also found interesting because they clearly were the kind of people who, not that they don't feel comfortable being themselves in normal society, because I think they do, but their normal, their themselves makes other people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Often. They're like kind of fringe characters and very edgy and very not interested in what the societal norms are, and the kind of people that make other people uncomfortable. And they clearly both felt like they could be themselves and wouldn't make each other uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So they listened to this record that night while they're hanging out. And Whitey is completely unaffected by it, aside from considering it really obnoxious.
Yeah, it's not great music.
And it immediately puts Heidi in sort of a trance.
Yeah, and we see flashbacks to those 1600 witches again, but I don't know if that's what she's seeing or if she's just in a related trance. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's sort of the beginning of her decline. Like, that's where, suddenly she starts acting weird and everything starts to fall apart.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
First, let me preface by saying I don't think I understood very much of this movie. I mean, I got the basic gist, but there's a lot. This is an art film. It's all got all kinds of images and symbols, and I don't know what it all means, but I can tell you, I'm sure it all means something.
That is one of the things I like about Rob Zombie films, is that it's so evident that every single nuance of this movie, of all of his movies, has purpose.
Yeah, he put it all there for a reason. Glowing neon crosses on the walls.
Everything.
Yeah.
Literally everything has symbolism and meaning, and I don't get most of it.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about the counterculture that Rob Zombie represents.
Yeah.
I know so little about it that I'm not even sure what to call it.
Yeah, and it's not just like metal music. He's like all the black and white movies that were showing on her TV throughout the whole movie, those were important. They meant something.
Right.
And the lines that were in them meant something, because he's totally into that. All his songs are filled with these lines from old movies all the time. And she had a giant picture of the moon with the bullet in its eye, which is the first
it's the
movie.
Scene from the very first movie ever made, basically.
Yeah, and later, in one of her weird dreamscapes that she was in, they had another shot from that, the ladies with holding up the star in space. So that meant something too. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe this whole movie is like some metaphor for the way movies have aged through the years or something. I don't know. But that was my question for you, was all this descent into madness an allegory for drug addiction, which is what she actually ended up involved in?
I don't know, because I have the feeling, and this could be me being from a very straight-laced part of society, like, I have the feeling that a big part of Rob Zombie and his cadre, like...
The Firefly Clan.
Sure. That they, religion and anti-religion are such a big part of what they do and what they, they know so much about it. Like, all of this stuff about goats having free will and pigs, all of that, that all comes from somewhere, and that's stuff that they know about. So I don't know if it's allegory or if it was just a story about witches and kind of a story where the witches won.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a horror thing, is that, you just end by killing all the characters. Not that they all died in this case, but, that's your shocking finale to a lot of horror movies, is the bad guys win.
Because it doesn't really give off the vibe of, yay, witches. I mean, they definitely seem evil, they're terrible, they're destroying this woman's life, and they're very vengeful. Because, they're not like the idea of, witches who are protecting the earth and, the more positive connotation that could be there. These are witches who, from the beginning, their, whole point was that they were going to desecrate Jesus, basically, or Yeah,
they were super satanic. They were Hail Satan all the way, was pretty much all they had to say.
Yeah. They were bringing about the birth of the Antichrist, was their goal.
I guess, or the anti-lobster.
Yeah. Lobster baby.
I don't know, there was a lot of weird stuff in this movie.
Yeah.
But those witches, the modern witches, they were a lot of fun. They were the 3 evil women who hung out downstairs below Heidi.
Lacey, who was her landlord, and Lacey's 2 friends, Sunny and Megan, who was very intense.
Yeah, she really was. She had trouble acting like a normal person. She was just being a witch.
She did, yeah.
One of the most fun scenes was when Lacey politely asked in Francis, the investigator guy, who's
historian.
Yeah, he's looking into witches and he thinks something's up. And she invites him in for some tea, and there's a whole tense situation where he's confronted by all 3 witches. Everybody's trying to act normal, but they're not. That was fun.
It was fun, and I liked the Francis character. I especially liked that it was kind of realistic in that he heard the phrase. So the album was sent to them under the name of the Lords, and then Herman just kind of was like, well, we'll call them the Lords of Salem because that's where we are, and whatever.
We don't know where they're from.
And Francis right away is like, I have heard that phrase before, and he starts investigating, but he doesn't tell any of them that there's anything funny. Like, he doesn't know, so he's not going to be like, hey, don't listen to that album, or, there's no heads up, even though we're watching him do this investigation kind of on the side. Yeah,
that was interesting. There's a little ditty in the notes that they were using.
Right. Within the notes from the journal of John Hawthorne, who was the guy who was obsessed with and burned the witches from the original witches.
Yes, which I had a problem with. He burned these witches by apparently lighting a fire in front of them while they sat back far behind it with black makeup on their faces.
Yeah.
It was not my favorite burning scene.
I simultaneously considered that scene ridiculous for exactly that reason, and very disturbing because, it was, the black on their faces increased over time. It was definitely supposed to be showing them
burning up,
charring over time, which is a really disturbing image.
Yeah, you don't want to see people burn.
No, and they were screaming. The women who played these witches, they went all out.
Yeah, they did.
Screaming, speaking in tongues, writhing. It was intense. But at the same time, it was so obvious that it wasn't really happening that it was kind of almost funny.
And I don't know. I mean, you wouldn't want CGI fire. That's never good. So
I actually wonder if that was kind of an homage to the sort of movie that
probably
shows up. That's the sort of effect that would have happened in those movies.
Which totally makes sense. That's his thing, is all these old horror movies and other kind of old movies, but primarily horror movies. So yeah, I get it. That could totally be. There's so many little things, though, in this movie that were crazy. There was the Sasquatch.
I called him a Sasquatch, too.
High five.
Yes. Yeah, I totally noted that as well.
It was just one in this long series. This is the problem I had with the movie, is for most of the running time, all it is we go from scene to scene, seeing her experience something a little more messed up than before. And so she's just getting a little more, I don't know, like burned out, crazy, losing sleep with each scene. And there's not really anything new for us. There's just, this time it's a Sasquatch. This time it's a bunch of rats. This time it's a priest being very bad. But that was kind of a dream, only it wasn't. A lot of them are kind of a dream, only they're not. So a lot of the movie really doesn't have a narrative to it. It's just continuing this descent, and that's not new information.
I wonder if we would have felt more of a narrative if we understood more of what all that symbolism was. You know, if we watch a movie that's about the plagues, like I know enough about that. I mean, I know I know roughly the same amount about actual Christianity as I do about Satanism, but
good deal.
Slightly more than, I don't know. But I would know enough to be like, oh, okay, yeah, there's a series of plagues and they're increasingly bad. And so I wonder if some of these things that she was seeing, like there was something at the end of each day.
Yeah.
If we knew what they symbolized and we knew where those symbols came from, if we wouldn't have, like the tension wouldn't have ramped up each time.
Yeah, but I'm worried if I didn't know this came from Rob Zombie, my assumption would be they were like, what else would be weird and scary? Now what can we do? And they're just, throwing it all at the wall and seeing what kind of Jell-O-covered spaghetti, which was in this movie, sticks.
I also noted that.
Yeah.
Yes, the baby she had, the Antichrist, was born looking like Jell-O-covered spaghetti.
Yeah, the thing.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, if I were making this movie, it would have included a lot of the same things, but only because I Googled Satanism or, like, what are things included in satanic rituals?
Sasquatches.
I did not know that before this.
Neither did I. Well, that was the other thing I thought was weird, which this one I'm pretty sure he had right and I would have gotten wrong, is there were crosses everywhere and they were always right side up. And I was like, why aren't those upside down? Or maybe they're going to fall and flip upside down, which happens in so many horror movies. But they didn't. They were just straight up crosses. There was an evil demon monster who dressed as a nun and was holding a cross, and it was just that. There was no twist to it. It was that. Mm-hmm. She went into a church and met a priest who was completely priestly, except he acted evil. Mm-hmm. So very, not a perversion of the symbols, but the symbols of Christianity. Very strange. Yeah. And then maybe the perversion was the fact that they were being used in bad ways. Although, now that I think about it, a glowing neon red cross is kind of perverse. That's like Las Vegas, red light district, but it's a cross. Mm-hmm. There's something to that.
There was another cross later that was glowing white and had the words Jesus saves on it. See? But it also, it was very gaudy. It was...
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that kind of... not supposed to make idols out of things, because there was also the Jesus, it was like a picture of Jesus kind of, but it was motorized so that it had this spinning light behind it that the witches had in their apartment, which was very goofy.
I would definitely call that gaudy too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that one actually reminded me of the Buddy Christ from Dogma.
Yeah,
that same kind of cartoony look. So the modern day witches discuss the difference between destiny and fate.
Yeah, they do.
And I thought that was an interesting conversation.
Yeah, but the way she said it, I didn't really get a difference. She said something about, do you know what?
So her premise, or the thing that she said, was that destiny is something that once you know it exists, once you know of it, you can change it if you want to. You can do something with that knowledge to change the outcome. Whereas fate, she said, was predetermined by forces stronger than ourselves. So your fate was your fate, and even if you knew what it was, there was nothing you were going to be able to do about it.
Yeah. I feel like the word destiny isn't really that different, but she's the expert.
I thought that was an interesting conversation. Now, would you want to know your fate? If with this definition of fate, predetermined by forces stronger than ourselves, so there's no changing it, would you want to know your fate?
If given the offer, I would have a hard time resisting that. Like, I mean, you gotta know, but I don't think that's really useful. That would be bad to know, probably. There's probably no good reason to know it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you think?
I think the inability to change it makes it... I also agree it would be hard to not gain that knowledge, but if there's nothing that you can do about it, yeah, the likelihood that it's going to be something bad in some way...
Well, you're gonna die. That's your fate.
And then just you have that knowledge for the rest of your life. Like, that doesn't seem beneficial. Now, destiny, under her definition, where it's something that is changeable with enough effort, I'm assuming, that one I'm a little less sure about, because I think I would still struggle. Like, I imagine changing your destiny is not an easy thing.
Probably not.
And I'm a fairly lazy person.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, maybe it's easier just not to know.
Yeah.
So this record triggers not the same response, not just in Heidi, but in all of the women in the Salem Lifers Society.
Yeah.
And in order to be in that society, you have to be able to trace your family tree back to the original settlers of Salem.
Yeah.
So that's the point. That's the mission that these witches are on, is that they are seeking revenge on the people who murdered them.
Yeah, and they're gonna come back and live forever, apparently, as a result.
And bring the Antichrist into the world.
Yeah, and apparently turn Heidi into, I don't know, white-eyed Jesus.
Well, yeah, she had a very Virgin Mary thing going on there.
Yeah, I don't know what that was, other than that she was their big hero now.
Yeah, but then she disappears, because there's that radio report at the end that's talking about how there was the mass suicide, which wasn't, in fact, a mass suicide, but nobody knows that. And that, 34 women or something? Like, all of the women in this society commit suicide together, supposedly. And there's an ongoing investigation for this missing girl who, it turns out, through Francis's investigation, we find out is the direct descendant of John Hawthorne.
Yeah, so it's like revenge.
Right, and that was there was a curse that the witches had put on Salem, that they would kill their daughters' daughters, and that John Hawthorne's legacy, or, his family, would be used to bring about the end of days. And so... There
we go.
Yeah.
Lobster baby.
It was kind of mission accomplished.
Yeah,
so did you have any other thoughts about the end?
2 issues. One is that there was a mini flesh man, and he was weird. Very weird. And he did weird things. That's all I have to say about him. Do you have any comments on him?
No, I agree with your thing. Yeah.
And then the other thing was that sequence... like, it's kind of the final witchening. It just flashes all these different images, and it's crazy. Like, some of it is, I mean, straight up Rob Zombie videos. Like, there's a rock star guy who's kind of giving the devil tongue and just hanging out and dancing with her. There's a part where she's riding on a goat and swinging her arm around like she's at a bar, like on one of those bucking broncos.
Now, that was from one of the lines. Like, the line within the ritual was something about when you gave up your resistance and decided to ride the goat. Oh,
it's still a weird way to represent that.
Yes.
But yeah, and the rock star guy, that was weird because he was nobody from the story or anything. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, why is this guy here? Is that Satan? Does he look like he's in a rock band? That makes sense. But then the part that bothered me was special effects that could have come from Bad Ben. It was these pictures, like, I think, I can't remember them now, but they were kind of like religious pictures. Like, like a picture of a saint or something, and then it would quickly swipe out parts of it with the Photoshop smear tool, and then cut to the next one. And it looked so ridiculous. Like, it was almost like a spirograph. It was just a weird effect.
It didn't have the same impact as, like, the transitions in House of a Thousand Corpses. Remember,
yes,
like,
those
between
were
the
awesome.
scenes? Those were nightmare-inducing,
Yeah.
but awesome. Whereas this was just, yeah.
That was so weird. Why would you do that?
I mean, I think it was about the warping of
Yeah.
of the world and of time and of, everything else, her soul, or I don't know. But, yeah, it was very cheesy.
Yeah, you could probably do that without using a tool that's labeled warp in Photoshop.
A little on the nose.
Sorry, my kitty's making noise.
Yeah. There were a couple of shots that I noted as being impressive. One of them was the concert, like, as the concert started.
Yeah, that was cool.
The Lords of Salem concert, which was really this ritual.
It was not much
There was
of a
no concert at all.
There wasn't even an opening band.
No. But there was this, like, blinding white light coming from the background, and everybody was in front of it, so it was all very shadowy and dramatic. And that light made everything, when the camera was looking at the stage, it made everything in the auditorium look black and white.
Yeah.
Like, it bled out all the color.
Ooh, maybe that's related to those old movies. I don't know.
I actually think it was. Like, it had sort of the same style. But then when it would turn around, looking at the balcony where Heidi was...
Which was also really cool.
Yes, the color came back.
That's interesting because the white light on stage shooting out at the audience, that's a movie theater. That's a projection, the movie being this bright light on all their faces. There's something in this movie that's about movies, but I have no idea what it is.
So, do you think it's something like, is he anti-movie and media? And, like, is it something about how movies are stealing our souls? Are bringing about the end of days? Is it something that...
No, because I know he's really into those kind of things, into pop culture and movies.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's beyond me, is what it is.
I don't know either, but I agree there's definitely a meaning there that we're not understanding. Alex probably gets it.
Okay.
So my only last note that I want to add in before we do our rating is that I really actually enjoy Sherry Moon Zombie as an actress.
Yeah, she's good.
And this was the movie where I enjoyed her most. Like, her character of, she was Baby in The Devil's Rejects. I was less so. Like, it sort of felt like a nepotism role. I'm like, fine,
Well,
you gave your wife a role, whatever.
But yeah.
But in this movie, she did a really great job. Like, I thought she was perfect for the role. She has the right look, she has the right style. Like, she played the newly sober DJ woman really well. Kind of that sadness was there, and like, there was a lot of depth to her character at that point. But then she also played her disintegration well. Mm-hmm. So I was impressed with her, and I am glad she had this role.
Yeah, I notice, I look at the reviews, and that's one of the biggest complaints all the time is, he casts her in this and she's no good. She's just whatever. I don't think that's accurate.
I remember we had this same conversation when we watched House of a Thousand Corpses, which is still one of my most favorite horror movies, even though it's flat out the scariest and most horrific of the movies we've ever watched. The critics hate Rob Zombie as a director.
Yeah, they do.
Hate him.
It's Michael Jordan playing baseball.
Yes! And I don't understand it. I honestly don't understand how they can be so blinded by this, like, how dare he come into our house, that they don't see everything that he brings to making movies.
Yeah, and that's sad. Sad for the critics.
It is.
They gotta broaden their horizons, embrace their destiny.
I wish everybody could see the hand gestures that you used to that, because they were pretty awesome.
Well, maybe next year it'll be a video podcast.
It will not.
Okay.
We have only seen 3 of his movies, though, and my friend Jim, who watches a lot of movies, has said he doesn't like Rob Zombie as a director because of some of the movies that he's made.
Yeah, everybody's in the comments I was looking at was saying his Halloween remake is not good at all.
Yes. He actually said, I will never forgive him for his remake of Halloween.
Yeah, and the other movie that I was going to pick, 31, is apparently not great. So it was tempting to try it, but I didn't.
Yeah. Ratings. It's my turn to rate first.
Lucky.
I am going to give this movie a solid 4 glowing crosses out of 5. It has all of the things that I like about Rob Zombie movies that I've already discussed. It was a well fleshed out story, I thought. I mean, I know you... Not flesh babies.
Oh.
Fleshed out story.
I thought it was a mini Flesh Man.
I know you felt like it didn't go anywhere for a while, but I also, I enjoyed just the atmosphere of seeing her apartment and the scariness of it, and how her apartment was scary to me in the first place. Just her life
Sure.
in general was a scary situation for me. You know, me and my, I know what house I am in Harry Potter. It was scary, and then to watch it get scarier as,
Witches pop up in corners.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. And I liked the way, the family connections tied in, and I felt like the story was there. So I'm giving it a solid 4.
All right. Coming out of this movie, in the other room where we watch movies, I was looking at a really low score, or at least low mediocre. Mm-hmm. Because it's all about that arc of how it felt like it could have been a 30-minute movie instead of an hour and a half. All that time that we just spent kind of on the more and more of the same thing happening. But then we talked for half an hour, as everyone has just heard, and I feel like I have made more peace with this film. And I'm deeply intrigued at the idea that it's about movies, because that thing behind her bed and all the movies on the TV, there's something there, but I'll never figure it out, so I guess I don't care.
And I don't think Rob Zombie's the kind of creator, the kind of artist who's going to go around explaining his artwork.
No, I don't think so. I think that's all just inside.
If he were to listen to this podcast, which he obviously will not be doing.
Are you sure?
But if he were to listen to this podcast, he would just laugh to himself and greatly enjoy the fact that we are too stupid to get his artwork.
Yeah, and I think that's fine. I'm glad we can entertain Rob Zombie.
Absolutely.
I love your music. Anyway.
A little fanboy there.
Well, I figure as long as he's listening.
As long as he's listening.
Let's get a two-way thing going.
Yeah.
I'm going to raise it up a little, but still, this is not on par. I think, if you want to consider all three that we've seen, this was more appealing than The Devil's Rejects.
Agreed.
Although that did have some really, really fun stuff to it. I mostly don't remember that movie. But anyway, it's no House of a Thousand Corpses, obviously. Mm-mm. So I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5 glowing crosses. So,
okay,
not up there with yours, but
fair enough.
It was enjoyable.
I mean, I think that at this point, I was so enamored with House of a Thousand Corpses that I think I automatically, elevate his scores a little bit just because I am fascinated with him.
That's what I was trying to prevent you from getting the chance to do. I tried to make it so you wouldn't know who this was, and you would be like, well, that's a dumb movie. And then I could be like, it's Rob Zombie. And you'd be like, I mean, awesome.
Just kidding.
I wanted to mess with your head.
I had already started to notice the aesthetic of the movie. I had already kind of gotten to that place where I'm not a huge fan of Satanistic stuff.
Yeah.
That's not something I'm interested in. And I had already decided that the movie was well done and was pretty in a set. Ugly pretty, dark pretty. So, I don't know. It would have been interesting to see, but
we will never know.
Voodoo spoiled it.
Thanks, Voodoo.
All right, we'll be back again tomorrow.
Yeah, right on.